All right, you did it. After months or maybe even years of writing, you finally got to type the end on that novel you've been working on. Congratulations. Relax, enjoy the moment, celebrate. You deserve it. You worked hard and it's done. You accomplished what you set out to do. But now what? When the feeling wears off and the celebration's over, there's still work to do, right? Even though as an author, I don't think there's any better feeling than getting to type the end and knowing that you finished that book. Right after that, there's just that feeling of, okay, well, now I've got more work. There's other things to be done. At least that's the way that I feel. So I thought, having just finished my 12th novel about 2 weeks ago, I might make a quick video and just tell you guys what I do in between typing the end and then finally hitting that publish button on Amazon. So let's go. So I do want to preface this entire video, I guess, at this point, just to let you know that the steps that I'm taking are the steps that I do as an independent author or a self-published author, whichever term or phrase you prefer. But I'm sure and I know that these steps are going to be vastly different if you are a traditionally published author working with an agent or a larger publishing house or even a mid-size or smaller press. The steps will be different. So again, this is the process that I use as a self-published author, and I've used this specific process probably for at least my last 4 or 5 books. It's a process that's kind of evolved as I've put out more work and as my readership has grown as well. So the first thing I do after I finish that first draft is I basically let the story just kind of sit for about a week. Sometimes it's been as little as like 3 or 4 days, but I try to give it a good solid week. And with this most recent novel, I actually waited almost 2 weeks or about a week and a half, but that's mostly because I was on vacation. But I just kind of let the book simmer, cool off for a little bit. Try to step away from the story. After, working on the book for so long and being down in the weeds of it, day in and day out for however long it took you to write, I find it's kind of refreshing just to kind of step back and get your mind out of the story for a little bit and be able to see the bigger picture again once you dive back in. So after that cool down period, then I will officially start working on the second draft. So my second draft is essentially where I sit down with the book and I read it from beginning to end for the very first time since the book has been finished, just a complete read through. I do go back usually 1 chapter, sometimes 2 chapters at a time each day when I sit down to write, just to kind of refresh my mind with the story as I'm going, but usually no more than 1 or 2 chapters. This is the first time that I will actually go from beginning to end and read the book all the way through. And with this read through, as I'm working on the second draft, the primary objectives are really just to clean the novel up. I look for my own typos and grammatical errors. I look for continuity issues, maybe some story and pacing issues if I feel like some things could flow better or be tightened up. This is also where I'll go back in and insert some things that maybe I left blank the first go round. Sometimes it could be the name of people or the name of places where I don't want to stop and like break my flow of writing in that moment. I'll just rather think about it later and go back and fill in those gaps, down the road when I'm doing my editing process. I do all these things to kind of try to make the story whole and complete, fill in the gaps, make it as neat and polished as I can. But I also do something else during this second draft process. As I'm writing the first draft, I will often make notes about things that I know that I need to go back and correct, add, or change when I do the second draft. I keep a document open on my computer and I'll just make little notes about things here or there. Sometimes it can be things that I've added to the story that I know in order for it to make sense, I'm going to have to go back and correct some earlier chapters. Sometimes I change things. It's going to require some chapters to be moved around some. I make these notes as I'm going instead of having to try to fix it all during that first draft period. Again, it just kind of helps the flow of things go. So the next thing I do after I get that second draft about as clean and polished as I'm going to get it in that moment is I go ahead and send a copy off to my copy editor so she can start working on it. And I'll go ahead and send an unedited version to people that are kind of like in my inner circle. Folks like my mother and my wife, people that have read all of my books, and I kind of just want to get some early feedback from in terms of what they think about the story, if they're catching any glaring issues, stuff like that, just to kind of give me one last thing to kind of work off of before I start working on the third draft. So the third draft is essentially the last full draft that I'll work on before it gets published to Amazon. I may go back and make some typo corrections a little bit down the road, but I'll talk about that in a second. But the third draft is like the last full revision that I'll do of the book. And this is basically where I take my copy editor's markups and notes and I go through them. It takes about a day, sometimes two, and I just go through and accept the changes that she's made for typos and grammar. I'll look at the suggestions that she's made for sentence structure or some plot issues she might come across, take those into considerations, change things as need be. And the book is just so much cleaner and so much better and tighter once I get those notes back and make those changes. So after all that's done, basically the third draft is finished and the book is ready to go out to some real readers for the very first time. So I use a service called BookFunnel to send some secure ebook copies out to my beta team, which is what I call my street team. They're my advanced reader team. They get the book basically before anybody else outside of my copy editor and my close family and friends. So what I get from them is really invaluable. Not only do I get basically for the first time fresh sets of eyes on the book where I can get honest feedback from them about what they like with the story, what they don't like with the story, which kind of helps me, shape future books. I also get all these new sets of eyes that can help me catch those last minute typos, because there's always going to be last minute typos. Doesn't matter how many times I read the book, how many times my copy editor goes through it, they're just going to happen. So it's nice to be able to gather those last minute finds, polish the book even more before it goes up on the Amazon. Another good benefit of having a solid beta team or street team is you can encourage them to hopefully leave a review for your book on the store when the book goes live. So because they've already read the book early, they're going to be able to leave reviews before anybody else, honest reviews that is. And this helps you in a couple different ways. First of all, you get more feedback on the book, which is good because maybe somebody didn't actually send you an email feedback with anything they liked or disliked. You might see the review that they leave as the first kind of feedback that you get from them. But the reviews on Amazon when the book goes live give the book some social proof, because if somebody stumbles across a book that maybe it's by an author they've never heard of and they see the book has 0 reviews, they're probably going to be a little less inclined to buy it. So by giving the beta readers early access, you've got people that have already read the book before it goes on sale. So when it does go on sale, they can go in, leave some reviews, give that book some social proof. And if somebody that's not already a fan of yours stumbles across the book online, they'll see people have already read it. Hopefully they've already enjoyed it, and that person might be more likely to buy the book. And this is pretty much where the end of the journey is. I've gone through the first draft, the second draft, the third draft. I've gotten the feedback from my beta readers. I've made those last minute typo corrections. Inevitably, there will be more down the road, but the book is about as clean as I can possibly make it right now. It's now time for me to upload that final version that I've formatted, the ebook, the paperback, and hit publish on Amazon. But there are some other things that I've been doing all while these other things were taking place. So the first is I obviously want to make a cover. So while the book is going through one of the drafts, whether it's second or third, or whether it's with my street team, I'm usually working with my cover designer, Jason, to make sure we get the cover ready to go, because I don't want that to be a last minute thing that we're rushing through when the book's ready to be published. The other thing I'm doing is I'm also going ahead and submitting the clean version to the US Copyright Office so I can get an official copyright on the work. I know this isn't necessarily required. Anything that you write, you technically already own the copyright to. But being that I am a small business and I want to protect my IP, this is just something that I always do, and it's something I definitely encourage other authors to do as well. It's not very expensive and it protects your work. And once I have the cover done, I can start creating some other social media imagery around that, trying to generate some hype and some interest in the book leading up to release date. And if I have a pre-order going on Amazon, I can actually use some of those images and try to run some Facebook ads to drive traffic to that product and get some early sales, which will hopefully help the book's ranking, which will hopefully translate into more sales when the book actually does go live. So there you have it. Those are the steps that I take from the time that I typed the end on a manuscript to when I actually hit the upload and publish button on Amazon. It has evolved over time, but this is the method that's kind of working really well for me right now. Who knows, in a year, I might make another video telling you everything I'm doing different. But for now, this works for me. Hopefully it helps you a little bit if you're interested in this stuff at all. And if you are and you enjoyed this video, if you could maybe hit that like button down below or subscribe to this channel for future videos, I would appreciate it. That is all I have for today. I will talk to you guys in the next one. Bye.